Hello. So this is tasks 4. So I hope you've done tasks 1, 2, and 3, as well as the tutorials just to introduce you to Scratch at the start. So the first couple of videos. Now we're going to be looking at something called iteration. Now, an iteration is when you complete a set of things. So you do something once. And then if you did more than one iteration, you'd be repeating the same thing more than once. So you can use what we call loops in order to repeat instructions that you might want to happen more than once. So that's what iteration is, just repeating instructions. And before we start on the task, I'll probably show you the ways you can do that in Scratch. So there's 3 main loop blocks in Scratch. So in Control, you find the loops. So the first one you've got is this one, which is to repeat a certain amount of times. Whatever I put inside this block, it'll repeat 10 times at the moment. If I want it to repeat 20 times, I'll type in 20 there. So if I wanted him to move 10 steps 20 times, that's what that repeat will do. The second repeat block, one you'll probably be very familiar with, is the forever block. This, of course, just repeats everything inside it forever, just constantly loops around. And you can see with these loop blocks that it's got this little arrow to show you once it's got to this point, it's going to go back to the top again. So it's just going to keep looping. So that's if you want to repeat without any limits, just forever. And then what if you want to repeat something a certain amount of times, but you're not sure how many times? Then we can use this, which is repeat until. And there's a concept in computer science. Usually there are 2 main loops that you'll have in a language. There'll be a for loop when you know how many times you want to repeat. So the Scratch equivalent would kind of be this one. So repeat a certain amount of times. And there's also a while loop. Now a while loop will repeat until something, well, it repeats while something is true. In Scratch we have this repeat until, and we can put a condition in here. So this loop will keep going until whatever this block in here is, until that becomes true, and then it'll stop. Okay, so those are the 3 kinds of loops you can have in Scratch. So get the character to say hello for 2 seconds 5 times. So in this task, I know how many times I want it to repeat. It's 5. So I need to get the character to say hello for 2 seconds 5 times. So which one am I going to need? Well, I'm going to need the one that I know how many times it's going to repeat. So I'll show you this task first, just to show you guys an example. So when the green flag is clicked, repeat, well, I need to do it 5 times. And I want him to say hello for 2 seconds. So to test this out, this happens when the green flag is clicked. So if I click the green flag, it says hello. The problem is I can't see when he stops saying hello. After 10 seconds, it'll stop. If I want to try that again, what I can do to split that up is I can put wait in between. So it's going to say hello for 2 seconds and then wait for half a second. So you should be able to see the difference in between. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it should stop there. So this time he repeated the 2 instructions inside this loop 5 times. Okay, so that solves that first task for you, task 4.1. And now what I want you guys to do is try and do the other tasks on your own. And obviously pause the video as you've been doing, and then come back and I'll show you how to do them. So for the next one, you actually need to use an extension. So I'll show you how to get this extension working. So using the pen extension, make the character draw a square. Ooh, using a repeat block. That should be a comma. Using a repeat block. So think about which instructions you would need to draw a square. If you were going to just walk in a square, what would you actually do? And how many times do you repeat certain instructions whilst you're drawing out a square? So if you want to use the pen extensions, mine's already got it loaded in, but you click down here on Add Extension. and then click on pen. And now you'll have all these pen blocks available to be used in your program. So I'm going to delete these. So what's the task I want you to do? Draw a square. So you want some help with that. I've done the flowchart, which is this one. So when the green flag is clicked, put the pen down, move forward, turn right to 90 degrees, and then it checks, have I done it 4 times yet? If I have, then I'll just finish. If I haven't, go back to the move forward instruction. So which blocks are going to be in the repeat here? So it's these two. Okay, and how many times are we repeating them? Those are the important things to think about. Have a go at the task and then pause the video and come back once you've tried it. Okay, so first of all, I need the green flag block. I've got that already. And then I need to make sure the pen is down. So the idea of the pen is, if you think that your character's carrying a pen around with them, and they can put the pen down on the paper, which is the screen, or they can lift it up. They can lift the pen up off the screen so it doesn't draw. So you need to make sure that the pen's down, so that wherever they go when they're walking around, they're actually drawing a line behind them. So that was the first step. Then I need to move forward and then turn right 90 degrees. So these are both motion blocks. Now 10 steps is quite small and the character is quite big. So I might make it 100 steps. And then turn 90 degrees. And what it says is that I need to repeat those 2 steps 4 times. So a simple way to do that in Scratch, which one would be the best one to use, would be just repeat it a certain amount of times. So when the green flag is clicked, put the pen down and repeat. Move 100 steps forward, turn right 90 degrees, and then it's going to go back, move 100 steps forward, turn 90 degrees, and it'll do that 4 times, and then there's nothing else to do, so it'll finish. So let's see that working. Now it happened very fast, but you did see he went forward, turn right, and so on. If I clear the screen, I'm going to put an erase all at the start, so he starts again. And to see this happening step by step, if I put a wait in there, so it'll move forward, turn 90 degrees, wait, and then do it again. Let's see him try it again. Okay, and they draw a square. So you can make lots of different shapes with this, and lots of cool patterns. If you want to have a go at that, try and do that. So the next task then, task 4.3. So this one's a useful one. I thought most of you guys will want to know how to make a timer for your game. So you can add in a time limit for any games that you've got, or you can see how much time someone takes to complete something. So it's quite a useful thing to have and a good use of loops for your games. So you want to make a timer that counts down from 30 seconds until the time reaches 0. It should only count down once per second. We don't want it to count down really fast. We want to do it once per second, it counts down. So, the flowchart for this. Now I've made 2, and I'll explain why. So this one on the left, it starts, we set the time to 30, so we're going to have a variable. So hopefully you're all aware what our variable is by now, which we'll set to 30. So that's going to be our number of seconds. We're going to wait 1 second, and then change the seconds by -1. So we're counting down then instead of counting up. Now this one is just repeating that 30 times. So that'll work. You could put a repeat block, put a 30 in it, and do those 2 things 30 times. But what if I decided, actually, I want to change my game, and I want to have 60 seconds? Well, in this example, I'd have to change this block to be set time to 60, and I'd have to change the repeat block to repeat 60. Whereas if we use a different loop, so this one on the right, what I'm checking is, is the time 0? I want to repeat these steps until the time is 0. So then, if I wanted to change this one and have 60 seconds, I only have to change one place, because the condition is still the same. It's still once the time reaches 0. So actually, we don't want to use a repeat a certain amount of times in this task. We want to use repeat until time equals 0. Try and put this together in Scratch, and then I'll show you how to do it. Okay, let's get rid of what I had before. Just clear the screen. Okay. So, first things first, what I need to do is set my time to be 30. I need to create a time variable. So let's make a variable, call it time, usually with a lowercase t for a variable name. The first letter is always usually lowercase. So I've got my time variable. Now I want to set my variable, set time to 30. And then I'm repeating these two blocks. Wait 1 second and change seconds by -1. So I want to wait 1 second, which is in control. And I want to change a time, not by 1, because that'll count up, by -1, so it takes 1 away. If you want to count down, you put a minus in front. And then I need to repeat this until the time gets to 0. So this block will be handy, repeat until, and in here the condition will be time equals 0. So repeat until equals 0, the time variable. And this will work. Once I've started it, the time's going to be 30, and then it'll repeat, it'll wait 1 second, take 1 away, so it'll be 29, it's not 0. Does it again, it'll be 28, it's not 0. And it'll repeatedly do this until the time reaches 0, and then this block will stop repeating. So let's see it. In fact, let me just change it to 5 just to show you, so I don't have to wait 30 seconds. So 5, and it goes 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and it stopped there because it repeated until the time reached 0 and then it stopped. So you can use this in all of your games. If you want a game to stop, if you have this code anywhere in your game, what you can do is add on the end the stop all block. So once this reaches 0, the next thing it does is it goes on to the next block where you can stop everything in your game. So it's quite a handy task if you're making games in Scratch. Okay, next one. So 4.4. So far we knew when these repetitions were going to end. We knew when we wanted to stop repeating things. We had the square. We knew it was going to be 4 things we were repeating for a square. And we had 30 seconds. We knew we wanted to repeat those steps 30 times. Now, this task, let the user enter words and get the character to say them if they typed in stop. To say them. Sorry, that should be a comma there. If they typed in stop, then stop the program. I should have written this a bit better. If they type stop, then stop the program. But if they say anything else, then get the character to say what they typed. So for example, if they typed in banana, then the character should say banana. If they typed in Luke, the character should say Luke. If they typed stop, the character shouldn't say anything and it'll stop the program. It won't ask you again. Okay, so a nice flowchart for this to help you out. Have a go at trying to make this. So you've got the start block. You ask the user to enter a word. Then you need to check, is the word stop? If it is, then we should stop the program. If it's not, it should go back, say the word they entered. Oh, sorry. It should the character should say the word they entered, and then it'll ask them again to enter another word. If it says stop, then it stops the program. Have a go at this. Think of when are we repeating? What are we repeating? And then what do we want to happen once they've typed in a word? When do we stop repeating? Okay. So for this one, we need to take a user input. So if you remember in Scratch, to do that, you need to use the ask block. And we'll ask them to please type in a word. And then we might set a variable. We don't have to do this necessarily, but it's always good practice. If you're taking user input, I'm going to take word. I'm going to set the word to be whatever they type in, the answer. So I've taken my user input. Now I need to check, is the word stop? And with this one, if it is stop, I stop the program. If it's not, then I go back. So the condition on the loop here is the word equals to stop? So the loop we want to give a condition. Now this is going to be a weird one. We're going to repeat until... Oh no, it's not too weird, sorry, I was thinking the wrong way around. We're going to repeat until the word is equals to stop. So instead of using numbers here, we can type in stop and word. Now, is this the right place to put this loop? Well, the answer to that is no. Because if we look, the input is included in the loop. It goes back to the input. So the first block that needs to be inside the loop is actually the ask block. Okay, we repeat this until the word is equal to stop. Now we'll have an interesting problem once we've done this once and we try to redo it, and I'll show you how that works now. Okay. But we also, inside the loop, need to have something that happens when we say for the character to say the word if it wasn't stop. So if the word is not equals to stop, this is a strange one. Maybe I haven't done this the best way I could have actually. But if the word is not equals to stop, so if not word equals stop, so you can put this inside a not block. So it's the opposite then. Then we say whatever word it was. So I think this will work. Maybe there's probably a better way of doing this. If I was you guys, I'd have a go, see if you can do this in a different way. But let's try it out anyway. So please type in a word. If I type in banana, then he says banana. And it asks me again. If I type in apple, it says apple. And asks me again. If I type in stop, what's going to happen is it'll store stop in word, and then is the word equals to stop? Yes. But is the word not equal to stop? Well, that is false. So this won't actually happen. He won't say it. It'll just get to here, and then this is true. So the whole loop will stop. So it won't actually say, and it won't repeat. Now, the problem we have is if we wanted to restart this game, if I click the green flag, it's not running. can you see why it's not running? So this repeats until word equals stop. So why isn't it doing it? Well, the problem we've got is that because the word was stop after the last time, then it already is stop, so it doesn't repeat it at all. So actually, if we wanted to fix it to work more than once, then what we would need to do is, before we start repeating, set the word to anything else. It can be 0, it can be a random number, just anything that isn't a word that they would use. So I'm going to put a random number in there. It's very unlikely the person will type that in and that's the word they want. But now, if I click it, because the word is not stop, then it goes into the loop and you can do something. Now, probably best just leave that as an empty space. And then you can type in anything. I'm going to say it. If you type in stop, it says stop. But now I've got this block here already. And when I click the green flag, it'll let me start again. Okay, so that is task 4.4. And now we come on to the challenge tasks. So this one, get the character to say all the even numbers between 0 and 10, including both of those numbers. So I want the character to say 0, then 2, then 4, then 6, then 8, then 10. So for this one, you'll need to use a variable. And I want you guys to try and do it without me showing the flowchart yet. If you get really stuck, then you can come back. Okay. So let's show you the flowchart first. It's always nice to see the steps laid out. So we start, and I've got a variable called current number. I'll explain why I need that in a minute. So I'm setting the current number to 0. And then I'm going to say what the current number is. Then I change that current number by 2. I add 2 to it. And I check, is the current number more than 10? If it is, then we stop. If it's not, we go back and we say that number. So remember the first time I had 0, but I added 2 to it. So now the second time it's going to say 2. Then I change that number by 2, so it goes up to 4. Is 4 bigger than 10? No. So I do it again. I say 4, and I add 2 to it. So now I have 6. Is 6 bigger than 10? No. So I say 6, I add 2, and I get 8, and so on. So this process will complete that task. So I'm going to repeat until the condition was, is the current number bigger than 10? So I need to make a variable called current number, which I'll just replace time. Oops. The current number is more than 10. That's when I stop repeating. That's my loop. But there was something that came before the loop, which I need to put in, which is to set the current number to 0. There we go. There's that block there, set current number to 0. And what's within the loop? What's the first thing that this arrow goes back to? Well, it's a say block. So I'll use for 2 seconds, say. And what do I say? Well, I need to say what the current number is. So current number variable. And then I need to change the current number by 2. So there's a change by 1, but we change that to be changed by 2. And that's it. We've got all the blocks. Let's see if it does it. So 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. How could I change this in order to say all the odd numbers from 1 to 11? Well, that's simple. All I would need to do is I start on 1. I'm going to keep adding 2 to it because 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 2 is 5. And I want to include 11 this time. So I repeat until the current number is more than 11. And I do that. 1, 3, 5, and it'll carry on until it gets to, it'll reach 13, but the character won't say 13. So you see the character didn't say 13, but it said 13 up here. Okay. Challenge task 4.6. Get the character to sing the 99 bottle song. This is quite a big one. So hopefully you know that. I think it's 99 green bottles. So what we want to do is to repeat the song. Because the song goes, there's 99 green bottles sitting on the wall. Does that twice. And then it says, if one of those bottles should fall, then there'll be 98 green bottles. And each time it counts down once. So we need to work out how we can put this together so the variables containing bottles actually counts down by 1 each time. Have a go at it yourself. Then I'll show you a flowchart for it. Okay, so the flowchart for this one looks more complex, but it's just more blocks, really. There's nothing difficult in here. We need to set the initial amount of bottles. So I've made a variable called bottles, and I've set it to 99. Then I say my bottles variable, so whatever number is stored there, which would be 99 the first time, 99 bottles sitting on the wall. I say it again, 99 bottles sitting on the wall. Then I say if one of those bottles should accidentally fall, change bottles by -1, because we need to say 1 less the next time we say it. Then there'll be 98 bottles sitting on the wall, because it's counted down by 1 there. And the final thing is we're repeating this until the bottles is 0. We don't want it to say there's 0 bottles sitting on the wall. If 1 falls, there's -1 bottles, because that doesn't make any sense. So that's our loop. The condition is bottles equals 0. Repeat until bottles equals 0. And we just need to put these say blocks in. So let's put that together now. So instead of current number, let's rename this to bottles. And remember to rename, you can right click and then click rename variable. 99, although for my task, I'll just show you 3 because it'll take a long time to get down from 99 to 0. And then I need to say. So say. And remember, if I've got a variable and some text that I want to say, I need to join them together with a join block. So join. And then we've got bottles, so our variable name. Then I put a space to make sure there's a space after the number. And then bottles sitting on the wall. And this block happens twice, so I can just copy and paste that. The third say block says if one of those bottles should accidentally fall. So if one of those bottles should accidentally fall. And this is where, after I said that, I change bottles by -1. Because the next block I want to use the amount of bottles -1. So I take 1 away. It's just like taking a bottle off the wall. I'm taking a bottle from my variable. So there's only 2 bottles left. And then I'm going to say, oops. So I've joined these together again. There'll be something bottles sitting on the wall. So this say block has text, then a variable, then some more text. So I need 2 join blocks for this, one within the other. I need some text. Let me just put these together first. I need to say there'll be space bottles, space, and bottles sitting on the wall. And that's, I've done it once. Now I need to repeat those blocks from the first say block until bottles is 0. So I want to repeat until, so I'm repeating all these blocks until bottles equals 0. And let's just test it's working. So we see it says 3 bottles sitting on the wall. Do that twice. If one should accidentally fall, there'll be 2 bottles sitting on the wall. He's doing it very fast. But we should see that it doesn't get down to 0. We won't say there's 0 bottles sitting on the wall and then -1. But if one should fall, then there'll be 0 bottles left, and it stopped. He didn't continue on. Okay, so that's that challenge task done. And these are quite tricky things to do using a variable and updating it in a loop. And that's why I've given you some quite difficult questions in the quiz on this, to see if you really understand using a variable in a loop. And the last task is a fun one. I'm not going to show you how to do this because I want you guys to come up with your own creations here. And for the quiz, if you tweet in your creations, then you'll probably get some bonus points if you tweet them to Technocamps. I'll put details on the website. So using loops, create a disco in Scratch with 1 or more characters, all dancing to music, and you could possibly get some different colored lights coming on in the disco as well. Okay, I'll show you a trick to doing this, some useful things. So lots of characters have different costumes. So they have how they look already. But if you click on costumes in the top left corner, you can see this character has 2 different costumes. Okay, so he kind of looks like he's moving if you keep clicking back and forth. So if you want them to switch automatically, there's a block in Looks called Next Costume. And if you just repeat this, I'll make him wait so you can see what's happening as well. So 0.3 seconds. If I repeat that 10 times, if you watch the cat, it now looks like he's dancing. It's just switching costumes back and forth. Okay. If you put that in a forever loop, then it'll just repeat that forever. And he'll dance to his heart's content. He won't stop. There are other characters as well. Now, he only has two costumes, but you'll find some costumes, if you hover over them, some characters, sorry, like a Nina Dance, for example, is perfect for this. She's got lots of dance moves, lots of costumes. So you can have a look at different ones you can add to your disco. I'll just add a Nina. And using that exact same code, if I drop it into a Nina like that, she can also do lots of dances. Okay, so there's different cool ways. Have a look at adding a backdrop. There's probably a disco one. Yeah, there's like a cool spotlight one there. You could also use some of the color blocks that you've seen before. Change color effect. If you put that in the sprite. Now he's changing colors every time. Okay, so there's lots of cool effects. You want to look at the looks one mainly for this. Just to make a cool disco. And then send your things in. Tweet Technocamps at Technocamps. And you'll get some bonus points for the quiz. Cool. So this is the last one that you'll need to do for the quiz itself. But I might make a couple of more videos in case anybody's interested in knowing a bit more about Scratch. So there's a couple of more things I wanted to show you guys that are really cool. One of them being how to use lists. So you can actually make a list of variables instead of having lots of individual ones. You can make a list. So I can maybe keep a list of numbers, and it lets me have a list of them. I can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 26, 60, and so on. Okay, so I've got a list of numbers. I'll show you how to use them in a cool way, and also how to create your own blocks. So this is how you can make a function, and I'll show you. You can make one block where you give it a number, and the character will make any square based on the number you've given. Sorry, not any square, any shape. If you put in 3, the character will make a triangle. If you put in 4, it'll make a square. If you put in 5, it'll make a pentagon, and so on. So there's one more video probably where I'll show you how to do that if you're interested. Okay, so thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed these videos, and make sure you get the best scores on the quiz.